It's not another Buffalo podcast with John.
Boy, Phoebe.
Pat.
I'm just a dad talking in a closet.
And Brando.
They're not even eating Doritos. They're eating the knockoff Doritos that don't have the cheese powder on them.
Those are called tortilla chips, Brandon. All right, welcome back to Not Another Buffalo podcast. I'm John. I'm here with Pat and Brando on a Tuesday evening.
Happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day. Want to thank our sponsor, Small City Realty, for sponsoring this show and all of our content. You can contact Zach at 585-409-1088 if you're looking to buy, sell, or manage property in Western New York. He is our favorite realtor in Western New York. Buying, selling, or property management, 585-409-1088 for that. And I'll have his email in the show notes as well. So, gentlemen, sorry, I'm still a little bit stuffy here, coming off of a cold. You know how the symptoms linger for, 7 to 33 days afterwards. Yeah. But obviously we have some lingering things with the Bills here, some festering wounds that have reared their ugly head that, again, it's really not that much of a brag to say that we talked about this in the offseason, because most of the fan base was talking about this in the offseason and the potential shortcomings of having a weak wide receiver room. And it's been all the topic of this past week, with the biggest story being that Brandon Beane was in talks with the Dolphins to acquire Jalen Waddle. And the part that they couldn't get done was a 2026 first versus a 2027 first. Brandon Beane was willing to give a 2027, but not a 2026. And that was not enough for the Dolphins. So I don't know how to wrap my head around that one, but somebody take over and just explain to me if you're Brandon Beane, and if you objectively look at your last 4 first round picks, how could you not think that taking a guaranteed hit on Jalen Waddle wouldn't be worth a first round
especially
pick
when that was the decision that changed your career, 5 years ago.
Right, with Stephon Diggs. Yeah.
Well,
so somebody help me understand.
I'll help you understand, John. I think Brandon Beane does not want to lose 2 picks from one draft class, right? Because this team has holes, which we know. They're going to need a linebacker, Matt Milano. They're going to need a D-end. Joey Bosa's contract's up. And do they have the money to bring these guys back? They might need a safety. Jordan Poyer's up there. They might need a depth corner. Trey White's here. They certainly need a wide receiver. And you might need a guard or a center with McGovern's contract up. So, I just listed 6 needs for this team. And if they're coming in with 8 or 9 draft picks, Brandon Beane is probably sitting here thinking, I'm going to need these picks this year to fill the holes on this roster.
At a price that works for him.
Apparently, it's too much for him. But the most important part on this, which is maybe I mentioned it 2 weeks ago or a week ago, the window to do this trade was approximately 2 years ago when Steph Diggs was on the roster. And he's getting bracketed all week long, and Joe Brady takes over, and we're throwing Diggs screen passes, and we didn't have any holes, and we had a healthy Von Miller, and we had healthy Matt Milano, and we had a good, strong secondary in the twilight of Poyer and Hyde's career. I said it before on the show. I'm going to say it again now because it's still super relevant now after the trade deadline. The window to make this trade was open for 6 years. So after you make that trade in 2020 to get Diggs, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, all of those years, this roster was so complete. Some of the best roster in football among all 32 teams. Then you didn't. And you picked Kyer Elam, and you picked freaking Keon Coleman, and you trade down. And, Dalton Kincaid, shout out to him. He's looking good. Finally, we got one in the first round.
When he is on the field.
When he's on the field, which is rarely. And it's taken him 3 years to get here.
It's true.
Neither here nor there. But I think having Brandon Beane say that, first of all, who leaked it, right? Who wants to let the world know that they were trying? Brandon Beane. The Bills, obviously, feeling the pressure of his stupid comments on the radio where he goes off on 2 innocent podcasters.
2 innocent podcasters.
Yeah. It can be listened to.
Something like that.
He understands he created a fire here with his attitude and his actions and his lack of actions with the draft picks, but he cannot afford now to get rid of these picks because he's pushed up against the cap. He has a lot of holes, and he can't give up 2 picks from the same draft class because of the way that he managed the roster previously and the choices that he had made in the draft previously. So to balk at the 2026 first, it kind of loops into the first question that McDermott was asked. Do you believe this is a championship roster? I think Beane not trading that 2026 first says no, because maybe he thinks it's going to be higher, and they are going to get some cap space in the offseason. They do have some dead money coming off the books. They have a lot of free agents that are going to open up some cap space. So maybe this, again, we heard him talk about the retooling with the superstar quarterback, our retool year without Stephon Diggs eating a $30 million dead cap hit, and they make it to the divisional round, or they make it to the AFC Championship. We're still in that. We still have effects of the dead cap hit, but I think next year, Brandon Beane says, we're going to be much better next year than we are this year. So let's trade 2027. And Miami's like, no. I wanted to get you while you're down. I want the 2026. And Beane says no, which, I would have done it in a second. I love Jalen Waddle, but I think that's my objectively subjective take on that.
I know. I just at best with a late first round pick, what are you looking at? Maybe optimistically a 60% chance that you get someone who comes in and contributes right away. Obviously, Max Hairston's kind of tough to judge because he was injured, so we couldn't, and he's looking like a good piece, right? But for every Max Hairston out there who's, again, looks good, not even a guaranteed hit yet, for every Max Hairston, there's a Kyrie Elam. There's a trade down for Keon Coleman. There's a second round AJ Epinesa, who honestly has been a great depth piece for years, but probably did not live up to what you wanted him to be as a second round pick. There's a Landon Jackson who unfortunately got injured, but that third round pick, you're expecting up to the third round to be contributors. And he was just constantly inactive on game day for the entire first start of the season. Sorry, Pat, go ahead.
No, you're okay. Is Deion Walker a third round pick? If I were
to believe he's on the all rookie team too, right at the moment. Yeah, maybe that's he's the best out of the
just trying to find some silver linings here, fellas. But no, I agree. And I think that, and not to say I clearly don't think that the Colts are the model of anything to do anything anywhere ever. Just to have that. I think Jim Irsay's daughter's doing a great job, but
the model for an ownership person.
She is apparently doing much better than her dad. But my thing is what is this is my problem with, I have people talk about Syracuse sports all the time. I have people talk about UB sports all the time. And it's sure, yeah, someone from Buffalo could tell you every single UB player really that's in the league. Someone from Syracuse could tell you everything about Marvin Harris. They could tell you everything about Keith Bullock in 1999 or something lame like that. And you're telling me that we have this same attachment to Keon Coleman. The Colts were AD Mitchell. We'll just whatever. Yeah, AD, pack your bags. You can go to the Jets. Whatever we got to throw into this deal to sweeten the pot, even if it's by one grain of salt. And I'm not saying that that Keon Coleman isn't talented, but I just don't understand is his value to that of AD Mitchell, where you're throwing him in as a sprinkle of salt on top of a deal, or it's interesting to hear us all complain about him, and then there's no proposals where he's being used as capital. So I don't know.
I don't think anybody wants him. I don't think anybody wants him. He is exactly what he's been projected to be: a physical trinket player who would be better in the slot, which we don't do. No separation. He can go up and catch a high ball, and he is not somebody that would be successful on the outside.
And Joe Brady loves that he can block, I guess, too. But
it blows my mind that it's we as a fan base, as even as the Buffalo Bills have gone through the progression these past couple of years, and you learn things about what works for Josh Allen. And very early on in the 2020s, we learned that Josh does well with separation receivers. We saw the iteration with the Calvin Benjamins and the win the possession type receivers. And then we saw the version of Josh Allen with the separators. And the version of Josh Allen with the separators has always been the best Josh Allen, right? That hasn't changed. Why did we think out of everything that we were just going to be, we can just insert this player who doesn't, whether Keon's even talented or not, it's a square peg in a round hole. That's fair. It's not what Josh needed. And Brandon, you're right. Ever since Beasley and Brown and Sanders got off of this team, they've needed a wide receiver too. They pushed Gabe into that role. He wasn't it. Gabe was a wide receiver 3-4. So it's I don't know. When the answers are so obvious about what you have to do, I know that there's a cap. But again, this is not Brandon Beane's inherited cap. This is his roster that he's built over the course of 6 years. These are his signings. You signed Curtis Samuel for $7 million a year. You signed
Knox for $17 million.
Dawson
a year.
Knox. Yeah, I like Dawson Knox. That's a tough one, but that is a steep contract.
For that much.
I mean, we don't have to go as far back as Trent Murphy, but like, if you want to talk about free agents,
no, the can has been
misses,
kicked down the road as far as it can be kicked.
Yeah. So this is like its own version of the drought QB purgatory that we were in, that we've entered, not since Diggs left the team, but since Sanders, Beasley, and Brown left the team first. I know they came back in different stints, but it never really was the same after that for this passing offense. It's like, we're like constantly trying to ride the line of what can we get. We're living year to year. We're hoping that draft picks make contributions. And when they don't, we're stuck in an area where we can't afford free agents that will make a difference. Right? Like we're not the New England Patriots, who have so much cap room right now that if I honestly don't understand why the Patriots didn't make a big move at the deadline. They could have signed somebody big,
because Stanley knows.
Probably the same reason with the Bills, though. I don't think the Jets nor the Dolphins want to help in the division, especially with young talent under contract. You're going to face them again. So, maybe the Dolphins, I don't want to say they're going to turn it around next year, because Tua's got $118 million dead cap hit if they cut him or they trade him. But 2 years from now, they might have an out. Jalen Waddle's got 4 years left. So you could hypothetically see age 29, Jalen Waddle still in his prime, going up against Archie Manning, and the ghost of Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane. But Mike McDaniel may be trolling Broncos fans, wherever he is. But it's tough, because I say it all the time. You developed Josh Allen perfectly. You got him what he needed. You set him up in the plays that were good for him, and you ran a system that he thrived in, and you're switching from it. And we talk about these rookies. James Cook barely saw the field as a rookie. Dalton Kincaid barely got the action compared to other rookie tight ends. You see these high Kyer Elam plays and makes splash plays against the Dolphins, in a playoff game, gets an interception, and then he doesn't see the field because of his practice habits. So these rookies that are getting coddled or benched, and then you have Keon Coleman leading the team in targets and leading the team in air yards thrown, and just throwing him to the wolves, saying, "Good luck, buddy. Make it happen. We're not going to treat you differently than any of these other rookies that we've had, that we will take our time with. Even if James Cook flashes, we're not going to play him enough. Even if Dalton Kincaid is the best pass catcher in the draft, we're only going to play him 40% of the snaps. But Keon Coleman, slot guy that is not successful outside. We're going to throw you on the outside. You're going to play 90% of the snaps. And if you don't figure it out, we're going to blame you and throw you under the rug for you not being successful, even though we're putting you in a spot that the whole league deemed would not be successful for him." So I would love to know if he was dangled in a trade, because I don't think there's any value for him right now. But there has to be another team that says, if I put Keon Coleman in the slot, maybe I'll get the best version of him, which is not a bad player. Maybe it's Keenan Allen out of the slot. Maybe it's something else, a big-bodied guy that can make better plays. But they are not giving him the same treatment that they've given other rookies that they have drafted.
And to circle back to your question, Brandon, like the underlying question of all this, is this a championship roster? I think it's like, that's not an easy yes or an easy no. It's easier to answer, could this team win a championship? And of course the answer is yes. Like,
as long as we got Josh Allen, right?
Again, it's any given Sunday for the most part in the NFL, right? You have Josh. We saw what they did 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs, right? It could happen, but the margin of error is so small right now, because again, Miami just put out the blueprint to stop you, right? This offense is just screwed if James Cook can't get going. And that's the question that we've been asking all summer. Like, that's all Jeremy and Joe were asking over the summer, is it's like, if your fastball gets slowed down, which is your run game right now, for better or for worse, do you have the horses for the pass game to do it? And it's like, everybody scored 30 points a game or whatever stat Brandon Beane cherry picked last year about the records that they set. The only question everyone was asking was, is that sustainable? And that's a hard no right now. And
no.
The tough part about Beane for me is like, and I said this over the summer, so this is just a repeat, but it's like, what he showed with that was that his ego is tied up in this roster build. If you're someone who, like, those two things are separate, right? If someone criticizes your roster, you can be like, well, like, we're always looking to get better. And it's like, we could be better at every position. We're always evaluating options. And that's the answer that Sean McDermott and him usually give. It's like, we're always evaluating things. We're always taking calls, kind of the boilerplate, good stuff you want to hear from your GM. But he didn't do that. He's like, how dare you insult my roster build of wide receivers? And it's like, when that's clouding your vision of what the roster is, clearly there's a disconnect between your opinion and reality.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's a position though where you have to have the utmost confidence. I'm not saying to like the wide receiver level, but like I think, and obviously, Brandon Beane's not Howie Roseman by any stretch, but I'm sure if you put Howie on the radio and you said, Jesus, you put all this draft capital and all this money into AJ Brown and you're not throwing him the ball, I would be hard pressed to think that he wouldn't have some choice words. And I just think before we get too caught up in this, I mean, you guys know Bill Polian, like the greatest general manager in Bills history, right?
Wanted Lamar Jackson to be a running back, or tight end,
but won a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning, the only guy who could get him there. And you know why he left? He got in an ego fight with Rolf Wilson. His daughter wanted to help make personnel decisions, and he said, "I'm not going to take, any sort of player personnel advice from you." Now, should Bill Polian have taken the advice? Yeah, it doesn't matter. She's your boss. She's related to the guy who's your boss. You got to take the advice. And obviously, it's a very clear decline after that point. So I feel like it's hard to, it was a terrible thing to say. And I wouldn't want to be Joe or Jeremy having to sit through that. But at the same time, I do like the idea that my GM is confident enough that he's ready to go make an ass of himself on the radio to prove a point,
It's an interesting point, Pat.
I wouldn't mind the confidence if he was right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And also, Howie Roseman said it after the trade deadline because he made moves. And he said, I'm not going to sit on my hands and hope that I can do this. I'm going to go for it because we don't have windows like this. And he talked about how he enjoys being aggressive with a roster like this, and it sets their team apart from every other team. And his Brandon Beane's been aggressive and he's done all these things. And I don't think the trade deadline, I don't want to criticize him that much because I agree. I said it on here. There's too many holes to get rid of the picks this year. Next year's pick was the one to trade. And I do love Jalen Waddle. I would have traded the 26, but I think he went to bed Monday night with the deal done. He said it. He had deals to restructure in his conference. He had them done. The restructures were ready to be turned into the league. He needed another team to do other restructures, and other teams needed to do the restructures on Monday for them to be able to get traded on Tuesday. And he said that he woke up Tuesday and those players did not get restructured. So he said he was pissed that he wasted all this time. So I get it. We can hate on him. And I'm a little bit on both sides here because I'm pissed for the previous 4 years of not doing anything. But for this one trade deadline, I can understand a little bit not giving it up with all of these current holes on the roster.
Yeah, I can understand that too. Like if there was some kind of logistical thing where, again, some team didn't follow up on what they said they were going to do. Like I get that's all well and good. It's like when he pulls out at this press conference, the fantasy football comment again, you hear when he called that out, he's like, it's not fantasy football. We can't just trade for anybody. That's, yes, you can. I want to like throw a glass to the window when I hear that, because that's I'm here and you're here. Know your place. You don't know how to do my job. You can't ask questions about my job. And like that peeves me a little bit. That makes me want to go like, tone. I don't like that. It's like, you're not immune from criticism. You've won nothing since you've been here. This team has made it and it has failed, and its shortcomings have been very apparent, and we've tried to cover them. And then we've kind of gone in circles a little bit as far as the roster build goes. And it's like, you're not totally absolved of blame in this at all. And right. I'm just like, don't give me the fantasy football bit. I couldn't do your job. And, the reporters in that room couldn't do your job probably, but they're allowed to ask you questions about it and get your opinion on why you did or didn't do things. And it's like, his tone is so different from earlier years. When he'd give you a really insightful answer, he'd say, well, we tried to do this and we always want to do this, but the downside is we can't do this, instead of just the annoyed kind of like, well, it's not fantasy football, whatever. I don't know. I've done almost a complete 180 on Brandon Beane in the last 6 months, which is crazy to say, but
it's very crazy because remember being on here and listening to him talk about Von Miller signing and how it's their time to push the chips into the center. And he's always ready to be a gamer like this and make a move like this to put his team in the best position to win, except McDermott's interesting because I think we talked about it a little bit last year about eating the dead cap. They talked about they needed the explosive plays. Remember the end of the conference last year and McDermott needing explosive plays. You need explosive players to make explosive plays. The Myles Garrett chatter, all of this speculation, but McDermott is saying he loves these guys on the roster, but I think McDermott knows that they need this area to be better. And, McDermott says his step of the process is to tell Beane the needs, and Beane has to go do it. But I feel like this is where it gets interesting, because there has to be a rift, because you built a team that McDermott hated, with Brian Daboll at offensive coordinator, throwing his team under the bus. We need to be balanced. We need to be tough. If you're in the team meetings, we're talking about toughness, and this isn't tough. Throwing the ball 50 times a game is not tough. And now they get the tough team.
And I was going to say, we've swung so far in the other direction that we've completely neutered the downfield passing game to a point where it's hindering everything, right?
But if you're his boss and you're being successful and you have a perfect 3-week stretch of football in 2022, throwing the ball, airing it out, scoring a ton of points, and your defense lets you down again, which is McDermott's fault. But if you're the boss of the guy that's like wishy-washy, okay, you go get me Emmanuel Sanders, go get me Stephon Diggs, go get me Cole Beasley, go get me John Brown. Okay, now go get me Jackson Hawes. Sign Dawson Knox to an extension. Let's draft Dalton Kincaid. Let's draft James Cook. Let's run the ball 60% of the time now. I mean, as a GM, I would be kind of mad, because I'm like, okay, we did this one way and now you don't want to do it anymore, even though it was really successful. Okay, now I'll make my personnel choices because, coach, you were hired first, all right, if this is what you want. And now it's totally backfired. So I would be mad if my coach, who was hired first, tells me to get all these separators, these offensive weapons, and then doubles down on switching to 12 and 13 personnel. And now it's like, Brandon, you put us in this bad spot. And Brandon's like, well, coach wanted to do it this way. So it has to be some uncomfortability.
I thought that Beane only reports to Pagula, though. I didn't think that Beane reports to McDermott.
They're an interest. Again, McDermott's hired first. McDermott brings his guy from the Panthers to the stadium.
Didn't McDermott do GM stuff that first, I guess,
the
year
first
and a half,
draft,
right?
Doug Whaley was still on the roster. Doug Whaley was in the draft room.
Milano's a McDermott pick. Trey White.
Trey White,
McDermott
Deion
pick.
Dawkins.
Yes. I guess, yeah.
That first draft class.
Yeah.
So if one of them has to go.
I think those guys have to be in somewhat of lockstep, like with the full direction of the team. Like if there's friction there, then it's really, really well hidden, right? Like, I mean, there might be friction, but do you think their philosophies actually conflict that much?
I don't think they know what they want the philosophy to be, because they spent 4 years doing one thing.
I don't think Ken Dorsey was on the same philosophical page as anyone else in the building when he smashed that iPad, and then Joe Brady gave us deja vu on Sunday. I would say that probably that's a sign of people not on the same page. I mean, I don't know. It's really, do you guys feel like at the same time, though, you would give, Sean McDermott credit, you'd give Brandon Beane credit for at least saying, hey, we've tried airing it out 50 times a game. Let's go 180 degrees in the other direction. I mean, I feel like at least at that point you can say you've covered all of your bases. You failed, but at least you can rest assured knowing Tom Brady's first Super Bowl, he doesn't throw a touchdown until he's in the Super Bowl. This man plays 3 games and throws 1 touchdown. And that last Buccaneers Super Bowl, he's slinging the ball all over the yard. So it's hard for me to say really. Yeah, you can't knock him for trying, I guess, would be my thought.
That's a good point, Pat. I like that take, but I feel like you didn't lose because you couldn't move the ball. You lost because your defensive head coach blew a gasket and ran into the iceberg that sunk the Titanic. You didn't lose because your offense was inept. You didn't lose because your MVP quarterback played bad. You didn't lose because a play caller was playing Tetris in a playoff game. You didn't lose because receivers weren't getting open. You lost because your defensive head coach can't cover anybody in a red jersey against Kansas City. And then you make this decision, and they talked about it again, how Stephon Diggs in New England right now catches the 4th and 1 touchdown. And Trey Henderson, who's the running back, the rookie running back for New England?
TreVeyon Henderson.
Yeah.
TreVeyon Henderson. Yeah. TreVeyon Henderson credits Stephon Diggs to his good game because of how hyped up Steph Diggs makes him on his team. And Mike Vrabel is this tough as nails motivator, wants to be great all the time. And Steph Diggs made everybody better. Deion Dawkins says it. Josh Allen says it. He was the guy that came into the room and made this better. And what did Sean McDermott say when Diggs scheduled a meeting before that first training camp when, Ken Dorsey is in there. Joe Brady's in there. Right before that season that he requested the trade, he wanted it to be different. He wanted it to be better. He knew this offense was not going in the right way. And what did McDermott do? He threw him under the bus saying, I don't know where Steph Diggs is, but you just met with him 10 minutes ago, coach. What did he say in that meeting? Did he say he didn't want to be on a team that runs the ball 60% of the time? Did he say he wants to be on a team with an MVP quarterback and slings it down the field? And now guess what? He's gone. And who is here to do this? Is Allen firing people up on the sideline? He looks frustrated. Did you see him with his hair down and his face red? He looks so bad. He's talking about his grandma telling him he needs to be happier. And now we're going back to the I'm low positive, guys. I'm low positive here, and I'm throwing for 200 yards and 1 touchdown and 1 interception and a 14-7 win against the Giants. It's just they broke this. They broke this. And I'm not saying they can't fix it, but it's weird. It's a weird situation
now,
this Buffalo Bills team has found themselves in.
Speaking of the Giants, how do you feel about potentially, Terrence opening his arms and saying, "Come back, Brian. We've missed you."
Now,
in any sort of capacity, because I know it's a weird dynamic, and I know McDermott doesn't like him because they have that weird. I don't know. It's a situation. He's your old boss now, subordinate, whatever. I feel like at that point you got to pick one or the other. But I would be curious to know what you guys thought about bringing Brian on as some sort of offensive assistant or some sort of assistant coordinator role for the rest of the year.
John, you go first because I don't want to be too long-winded and take everybody's air out. So you go first, and I'm ready.
Brandon, you catch your breath here. I would love it. They're not going to do it. There's no way they do it. I'm not saying it's not even worth talking about, but it's almost not even worth talking about.
You think they hate each other that bad?
Yes.
I think it's like, even if they, first of all, they probably do. But even if they hated each other just a tiny amount, enough to work together, like, unless Joe Brady gets fired mid-season, then that's the only way that I think that it would work. Because again, it's
Joe
like
Brady takes the LSU job or the Penn State job, which he's like one of the favorites to do that.
You're undermining. I mean, unless we're talking about next year. If we're talking about mid-season this year, it's like you're just undermining your offensive coordinator, right? Which honestly, to be frank, I wouldn't mind lighting a fire under anybody's butt on this entire thing. I don't think that makes anybody worse. I think that I don't know. Like, again, Joe Brady's an interesting topic, and I shouldn't speak too much on it because I'm not somebody who watches the L22 every week. I just listen to those people, right? So I'm a secondary source when it comes to that and play calling and all that stuff. I can say, to me, it looks like, I don't want to say they're holding anything back, but it's like for the Chiefs game, when they break out the stops, it seems like they have an offense that can move. And then the next week after that, Miami just had a better plan for stopping the run, apparently, and then everything kind of goes to hell after that, obviously. So
he called plays in the most prolific college offense of all time. That's all I'm saying. That I think.
Yes, he did.
They were throwing the ball 50 times a game, and somehow, I don't know.
I don't know. Was that team? Did they have decent receivers on that team? I can't remember.
I
they
don't
were
know.
above average.
Yeah,
they were above average.
Quarterback was kind of cute. That was the only thing going for him. But
he had nice hair then.
Yeah. So I don't know.
John, I think your point about them saving stuff is interesting. We talk about throwing the ball to the running back. The Bills were one of the top teams in the league to do that this year, and they're one of the bottom teams of the year to do that.
They did that in the Chiefs game, and they did it early.
They sure did. And, they had that clutch third down, James Cook play action rolling out to the right.
Yep.
The stats are a little skewed after this week due to the amount of game script that the Bills had to play catch up and passing and everything. But would you like to hear my take on the Brian Dable situation and why I don't think they're going to be there? Okay.
Give me some stats, Brando. Push the glasses up your nose.
I have a timeline for you first because I have quotes and then I have stats. Okay. December 7th, 2021, a day that'll live in infamy, not to be disrespectful on Pearl Harbor.
I was going to say that was 1943 or 41.
But on this day in 2021, there's a what you would call a hurricane snow game in Western New York. The Patriots came to town. Dude, we recall how that game went, right? We recall how that game went.
Dude, that was terrible. Mac Jones threw what? He threw 2 passes.
Three passes. But if you recall, the Bills were like stuffing the ball with Devin Singletary and Zach Moss and not getting anywhere. And then they realized, hey, our Wyoming quarterback that's 6'6" and 230 pounds can throw the ball in 50-mile-an-hour winds. So let's do it. And then they finally started moving the ball, but it was way too late and they didn't get enough going in time. So they lost that game. So in that game, which is where I started looking because I remember listening to this live, Sean McDermott gets asked, do you feel Brian Daboll is doing a good enough job as offensive coordinator? Quote, Sean McDermott, I don't think we took advantage of opportunities tonight. We were 1-4 in the red zone. We have got to figure this out. He is then asked if he wonders about the lack of the physicality in the run game. And his quote, I want my team to embody toughness. Our identity should be toughness. This has not been my message from day one. I can promise you that. If you were in team meetings, you would know what kind of style I really want. The identity needs to be toughness. And then we're going to go about a month and a half later, January 11th of 2022, this conversation came out due to Brian Flores's class action lawsuit of discrimination in the NFL because...
So was this Discovery? Like,
this was in Discovery.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
So this is a text message conversation. I believe, let me see, I have it here. This had to do with former Bills offensive coordinator Brian Daboll, who was hired by the Giants as their head coach. And the lawsuit alleges via text messages from New England Patriots head coach Bill Belichick that Daboll was set to be hired before Flores even finished interviewing for the job. But in those text messages, Bill Belichick congratulates him on getting the head coaching job, but Brian Daboll texted and said that he would be interested in being a coordinator with either Flores or Bill Belichick again because he is not happy in Buffalo and he might be able to get out of his contract if he doesn't get a head coaching job. So those were text messages sent that came out in Discovery before he was hired because he was plotting his move to get out of Buffalo before he got his head coaching job. And then we're just going to talk philosophy numbers here. I have pass rush rate, all this crap. So first down passing. In 2020, the Bills were 12th in the league. In 2021, they were 17th. In 2022, they were 14th. You know, a little bit above average, right? A little bit above average. And then, you know, October 17th, sorry, I skipped one. October 17th, 2023, Bills beat the Giants on an end of the game, 12-7 or 14-7. You know, Taron Johnson may have held somebody. Bills get the win. The two coaches go to shake hands at center field. 0 words spoken between the two head coaches. They don't even look at each other. And then Brian Daboll comes up and gives Josh a big hug. And then, you know, the Bills go on to, you know, they beat the Patriots and he sits out there and talks to McDaniel for 5 minutes or whatever. He talks to all these other coaches, but 0 words for Brian Daboll. Anyways, so we move on. First down passing rate, 2020, 12th, 2021, 17th, 2022, they're 14th. In 2023, Ken Dorsey's first year, they're 29th. In 24, they're 31st. And in 25th, they were 32nd. They jumped up to 28th due to the last game script, but they were dead last when I was looking these up before. And then when we go to passing rate as a team overall, right now, they are 32nd. Last pass heavy team. The teams around them that are interesting, though. Seattle, Philly, Baltimore, Washington, the Jets, and the Pats. So it's some good, some bad. In 2020, they were 11th. In 2021, they were 15th. In 2022, they were 11th. Those are Brian Daboll teams. In 2023, they were 27th. In 2024, they were 29th. 2025, they're 32nd. So you want Brian Daboll to come in here. They're not going to agree on how this team is being ran. So they didn't agree on how it was being ran beforehand. So no chance whatsoever on this earth Sean McDermott lets this guy back in the building.
Well, let's say Shawnee he has to clean his office out, or Terry Pagula. Would you be okay with a 1-for-1 switch if the universe allowed it?
Yeah.
In
a second.
I think so.
It's not even close.
Well,
I don't have to think about it.
So we're hoping that the prodigal son returns is what I'm hearing.
But that only happens if this team blows up negatively.
It could.
And they lose a lot down the stretch. But I don't think they're gonna. Yeah, they got Josh Allen.
Well, I was gonna say, what honestly, like, I don't even know what it would take this year. Like, would it, like,
10
even
losses.
missing the playoffs, right? Like,
yes,
is that enough?
It's fireable
for Terry Pagula. I don't know if it is.
Better be. It better be.
I don't know.
It should be. Anybody with a brain. Oh my God, come on. Hey, you have Josh Allen and you can't make the playoffs. What are you, Deshaun Watson on the Houston Texans leading the league? He led the league in passing, so it's not even in the same category, right? It's what they did to this team, they broke it. They broke it. And you can say whatever you want about it. You have an all-pro MVP quarterback. You give me somebody that can make him better, swap it without even thinking about it. Mike McDaniel, done. Sean Payton, done. Brian Daboll, done. Who's Kevin O'Connell? Give me an offensive guy. We're at Mike Tomlin levels here. The Bills have to be the Steelers to make the playoffs this year. How are they going to beat Philly? How are they going to beat Joe Burrow is going to be back by the time when they play the Bengals in a month? How are they going to beat the Bengals? They're going to run the ball. They're going to run play action. They're going to hope to win the game 23-21 or 25-24, whatever.
That's the crazy thing about this is it's like you're going to get are you going to get Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde? Are you going to get the Bills team that didn't show up to Miami, or are you going to get the team that dominated the Chiefs the week before that?
Yeah, and it just is so fixable because you're sitting here
having having the last place first down offense. How many times was Josh Allen in 3rd and 8 or longer?
A lot of times, bro. I don't know, probably 10
and
times.
17
10
that
times.
he picks up. 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. You're 1 yard short, and you say whatever you want. You have a chance of getting at least 4 yards with your eyes closed, calling a passing play because Allen can just run it. Whatever. You don't have to call the run because Allen can do it. And that's always what pissed me off about calling these James Cook handoffs on first down. If you call a shotgun pass or play action pass with Josh Allen, there's like a 50-50 shot he's going to run it anyways. So give him the opportunity to do that. And maybe they're setting it up, John, like you said, to fool some teams with some play action first down passing later in the year when it matters more. But they sure don't look like it.
I was going to say, because they also have really big tendencies right now, right? Whereas like when they're in shotgun, they're throwing it. When they're under center, they're running it. They are number 1 or top 10 in both tendencies in the league right now. So is that something that they're going to switch up? And when they switch it up, does that become predictable? I don't know. They've got a lot of stuff to work on when it comes to that. But the crazy part about all of this is like going back to your initial question, this is still a team that could win the Super Bowl this year. And that's the crazy part about it. But again, so I don't know. It's the regime is going to be a discussion based on how this team or this year finishes up, right? Because again, it didn't help that the Bills probably didn't really show up mentally, physically, whatever at Miami. It's a trap game, right? It's a classic letdown after a big win. What team shows up this week? This will be a good litmus test against the Bucs. So previewing our game picks, the Bills are
a game.
Yeah. Favored by 5.5 points in this game.
5.5 point favorites?
Yep.
It's crazy. So it can't be that bad, right?
Well, that's what the line on this Dolphins game frickin' went from 9.5 to 7.5 by kickoff. I don't know what happened, but
it's so far. I was actually going to take the Dolphins to cover the spread too, because I thought that this could be a potential. I was like, I don't want to be a hater. I think people hate it if the Bills clear and have a good game. I was just kicking myself. Anyway.
To be positive though, kind of how Pat was saying, we can crap on this all day long. The positives here to take out of this are Keon Coleman caught a pass downfield. Jackson Haas caught a pass downfield. Allen can still do it. He's running all over the place. He's in great shape. Allen's in great shape physically. I mean, to be able to, he got hit 7 times. It's the highest he's been hit in like 6 years. And Brandon Beane admittedly knows this roster's not right. And he openly, if he leaks it and says, we get the first round pick. So I'm excited. I don't want to wish the season away because we don't have all of these, but I think this offseason could be exciting for this Buffalo Bills team, knowing what the thought process is in Brandon's head now compared to what it was earlier when he's on GR freaking out. So
yeah, well, didn't we always think that the one year that they do win it, there'll be some like silly wild card team where we have low expectations and all of a sudden the path is, that could be this year. You could have the Bills, the Ravens, and the Chiefs as the 5, 6, 7 seeds. Like that could very well shape up that way. So I guess we'll just enjoy the ride for right now, but we'll still complain along the way. Like we're allowed to criticize.
So do you think they'll cover? I mean, that's the real question.
Hang on, we're not in game picks yet, Pat.
We gotta get if I'm gonna spend less than 3 hours editing this tomorrow, we do have to get through game picks. Okay. Let's roll them off.
John, hit us with the recap.
All right, 2-week recap here. We have Brandon 2 weeks ago went 0-6, so that helped us quite a bit in the standings. Pat, you went 5-1 despite picks coming in early second quarter on Sunday.
We decided you needed a penalty. There's some form of punishment.
That's true, but also I made the foul of not getting game picks updated until about 40 minutes before kickoff this past weekend, and so I said in the group chat, I was like, Pat, if you can get picks in before kickoff, we'll forgive and forget. So there's that. Pat went 5-1 that week. Last week, Brandon, you and I went 4-2, and Pat went 3-3. So Brandon, I don't know if you mirrored my picks in the group chat on purpose just to keep the gap nice and wide, but either way, it was effective, whether we were thinking similarly or not. So
I was trailering my boat back to Honeyway Lake, and I'm like, I knew I wasn't going to make it. So when we stopped. And it was like when I texted him in late, I was right before kickoff. And I did look at yours, John. I did look, but I did not copy them on purpose. I thought they were good picks. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That sounds like the same thing. I'm just kidding. Thank you for stopping. I'm sorry I sent them in late. I should have.
No, we had gotten to our destination like at 12:55. So I was like in the bathroom, like, okay, John, I got to text you these.
There you go.
So
there you go. Okay.
I did not copy and paste.
So those were bathroom picks, is what you're saying.
Yes, and I almost copied and pasted yours. I had it like my thumb down to like hit the copy button, and I was like, no, I'll go look. I'm not going to do this. And that's when I looked. And I was like, wow, we actually were the same anyways.
Right. So. Almost a flag on the play there. Anyway.
Yeah.
Overall, Pat, you were at 500, 27-27. I'm 3 games back of that at 24-30. Not great, but pretty bad. And Brando, you were at 30-24. So we still have mirror records, but the gap is 6 games. So if I go 6-0 and Brando goes 0-6, we could pull the gap in, but we're probably going to agree on some things here. So Brandon, why don't you roll off our games for this week, and we'll try to keep it short. Can we do game picks in under 5 minutes?
Go fast.
I think we can do it.
Oh, excuse me. All right, Detroit at Philly. Detroit coming off a big win. Philly coming off a boring win. Philadelphia -2.5 point favorites. Big game in the NFC for the seeding. I will take Detroit and the points here. I think even though they're outside and the weather could be different, Jared Goff, doesn't play great away, but I think this team is good enough to get with the points to cover this game. So give me the Lions.
I had that written down for you before I knew what you were picking. Give me the Lions too. Pat, you like Philly in this one, or you like the Lions on the road?
What's the spread again, boys? I'm
2.5 points for Philly.
Eagles to win and cover.
All right, Philly for Pat.
Game number 2, we are. Oh, I said this wrong last time, right? Cincinnati's in Ohio and Pittsburgh is in.
Yeah. Oh, you said this was the Battle of Ohio.
Battle of Ohio or Pennsylvania last time, right? Close cities to each other.
No, they are. They are. Pittsburgh's like, what is it, Western Pennsylvania or whatever. So.
Yeah, they're close. Yeah. They're close. So Cincinnati Bengals at Pittsburgh Steelers. This is who's watching this game if you don't have to. I mean, Mike Tomlin against Joe Flacco. Mike Tomlin's been chomping at the bit to play Joe Flacco after ripping on the Browns for trading Flacco into the divisions. And Pittsburgh's a -5.5 point favorite here at home with Aaron Rodgers. Pat, you lead us off here.
Oh, I think my boy Joe's getting disrespected, man. I think I'll take the Bengals here.
I'm going Cincinnati as well. I'm on the same page as you. I got distracted because I was looking up the driving distance between Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. It is a cool 4 hours and 27 minutes. So not unlike a Buffalo to Albany trip.
Buffalo to Detroit trip.
Heck yeah.
If you don't have to drive.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Brandon, who you got?
I don't know. I'll take Pittsburgh. TJ Watt's going to smack Joe Flacco a few times. Aaron Rodgers, do whatever you got to do to cover this spread. So I'm not judging for this game specifically. So, all right. Interesting game coming up here. This might be my bet of the week. So I'll go first, John, just to influence you. We got the Los Angeles Chargers at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Los Angeles Chargers are only -2.5 here. Justin Herbert and company versus Trevor Lawrence. No Travis Hunter for the rest of the year. I'm taking the Chargers here, and I think that's going to be my pick of the week. I'm going to call it a pick of the week instead of a lock of the week.
All right. Again, I think it was Chargers last time against the Colts, and we both had the Charger. No, it was the Colts against somebody else. I forget.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, we missed that. I'm going to go Chargers as well. It's just I think their passing offense is going to take some chunks out of Jacksonville's passing defense, which has always struggled. But Pat, what do you think?
I think the Jaguars are going to take some chunks, all right. So Yeah. No, I got to go Chargers. Win and cover.
We're all on the Chargers there. All right, we got a big game for playoff seeding here. We got Kansas City going to Mile High Stadium, looking to make up ground on the Denver Broncos. Kansas City sitting way below the Broncos in the standings, battling it out for that wild card. Denver looking to win the division for the first time in a long time. Kansas City minus 3.5 point favorite here. Denver struggling offensively. Sean Payton as one of those coaches around the league answering questions to why their offense looks bad. But maybe he should just look at his roster and say Bo Nix isn't the best. But John, Kansas City minus 3.5. Who you got?
Okay, you're definitely taking Kansas City, right?
John, Kansas City's minus 3.5. Who you got?
Brandon, you're taking Kansas City, right?
It's not my turn to go first.
Maybe it's Pat's turn to go
Pat went
first. And then
first,
Brandon,
right.
you can go second. I don't think Brandon's gone second yet.
I feel like, you know what? The Chiefs, they haven't really played against any elite top tier defenses yet. Well, maybe that's...
Mind you, Pat Surtain is out.
Okay.
Is he out for this game officially
He's on IR,
still?
I think.
He's not on IR.
Sure.
But is he... he was injured last week, but...
Well, I think, especially with their defensive line and the way we roughed up Patrice 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't be surprised to see at least the Broncos cover. So,
All right. Denver for Pat. What do you think, Brando?
Broncos not placing CB Pat Surtain on injured reserve, but expecting to miss him again. I still think, John, it's Chiefs minus 3.5. What's your pick?
You're taking Chiefs?
Oh, I don't know. All right, rock, paper, scissors real quick. Who goes first?
All right.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. All right, you're up.
I knew you were going to do that, and I did that anyway.
You're up, buddy.
I'm taking Kansas City.
I'm so tempted.
Are you tempted to take the Broncos?
Yeah, I'm super tempted to take the Broncos. If Surtain's playing, I'm probably taking the Broncos. I think the Chiefs bounce back off a bye week. Andy Reid's so great off a bye week. I think they win by a touchdown, so I'm going to take the Chiefs too.
That was my piece of evidence that I didn't want to share. I was like, they're coming off a bye week.
Yep.
Andy Reid, great off the bye week. They've had 2 weeks to prep.
Yep.
So anyway,
we got there.
Wanted you to take Denver so bad.
Yeah.
I wanted you to take Denver. We'll probably both be wrong and pass, just like you idiots.
Yeah.
But all right.
Seattle
Next
at LA Rams could be matchup of the week. Seattle and LA atop the NFC, both looking great. Stafford, 25 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. MVP favorite? Question mark. I think so. That MVP at home. Give me the Rams to win this game.
Me too. Seahawks are pretenders.
I like the Rams in this one too.
Yeah. All right. We got a game here, folks. Baker versus Josh. Tampa at Buffalo. Sunday at 1 o'clock. Weather looks terrible. 50 degrees and some precipitation. I said it right, and I didn't say precipitation. The teams will be participating under precipitation. Say that 5 times fast. So Buffalo minus 5.5. This is going to be a good game. There should be some offense. Both teams are missing key players.
Key pass catchers, a lot of them.
Chris Godwin's out. Mike Evans out. Baker was banged up a little bit. Josh has got to be feeling it from the game last week. So,
yeah, those guys took some hits.
I mean, I went first last time, so
I can go first. I'm taking Buffalo.
Okay.
I've been wrong on my Buffalo pick for the last 3, 4. I don't think I've hit a single pick this year for the Bills. It's since the Baltimore game where I picked Baltimore. I missed the Bills pick week 2, missed it week 3, missed it week 4, missed it week 5. It's been bad. So maybe I should go against my instinct, but I'm going to take Buffalo.
Bills to win, not to cover.
All right. Tampa Bay on the spread for Pat. Brando?
no Dalton Kincaid, no Joshua Palmer. Bills might win. Tampa's going to cover. Give me the points.
All right.
I like this Tampa
That's the
team.
picks, boys.
I like this Tampa team. They're fun.
They're fun. They chuck the ball around.
They sure do. We should take some notes.
Guess we'll see.
Yeah.
But-
we will see.
All right.
All right. Well, this has been a long one, but thanks for sticking with us, guys. You guys know where to find us on all platforms at Not Buff Podcast. We'll see you all back here next week, hopefully celebrating a Bills win. Go Bills.
Go Bills.